become resolute. So when we look at a new year, and it's already the 16th of January, can you believe it? More than 2 weeks have already gone past. But when we look at a new year, it often brings out this feeling within us. It's a feeling that there's a new beginning, something fresh promise, a renewed start. All these kind of feelings come with these temporal milestones. And when I started researching resolutions, I found this very interesting study by Norcross and Van Gorelli. And basically what they were indicating, or what they said, was that these resolutions actually have a very, that they're limited, especially these New Year's resolutions, very limited. They did the study and they found that, okay, after the first week, only 77% of the people, the subjects in the study, were able to maintain their resolutions. After 1 month, still 55% of the people were still maintaining their resolutions. After 3 months, this dropped down to 43. After 6 months, only 40% of the people that had initially decided to do something was pursuing it, actively pursuing it, or trying to achieve that ideal or resolution. And after 2 years, only 19% had either achieved their resolution or were still participating in actively achieving it. So you can see as the time passes, there's a marked drop off in terms of the people that are actively participating or achieving their resolutions. So this is an interesting study, and it basically just goes to show that there is a limitation in this, just the setting of a resolution and attempting to try and bring about some kind of change. So a change could be something positive that you want to add to your personality or to your level of achievement, or even the things you want to achieve. Something positive you want to do. But it could also be the removal of some element of negativity within your own personality. So these are two aspects that we look at: the introduction of positive and the removal of negative. Psychologists, when referring to this resolution, especially New Year's resolutions, call it as the fresh start effect. There is a change at the temporal milestone. And what that means is, you're starting a new semester, or you're starting a new job. I'm starting a new job, your desk is clean, everything is set and ready. It's almost as though these milestones trigger this feeling or this drive in us to want to begin afresh, to start afresh, to kick off things in the right way. When we look at go to neuroscience, and this is before we start with the philosophy, so I'm just it's just a brief introduction into resolutions, New Year's resolutions in general. And from a broader perspective, what you must appreciate is this talk, and I will highlight this again as we progress, is you can apply this idea into just basic goal setting too. So when we look at, when we look at the neuroscience, what we find is that the level of dopamine increase, and this is the happy hormone, as it were, or that happy kind of element within us, that release of this dopamine creates this feeling and this positive feeling within us. And they find that any novel situation causes a greater release of this dopamine. So this ties into why people would use a New Year's resolution, because it's launching on something new. I'm going to try this, or this year I want to make sure, like, I jump out of a plane and go skydiving, or this year I want to make sure that I don't fall a prey to that bad habit that I was consumed with the last few months of last year, or this year I'm going to just get back to normal. a year free from all this chaos that's ensued our lives. I just want to get back to normal. So it's something novel. It's something new. And this, because of our association with that, we often tend to launch on these resolutions. Of course, as Norcross and Vangarelli pointed out, often these resolutions don't work. Yet, we continue to do it. A lot of people still tend to pitch up these goals or pitch up these resolutions beginning of every year, even if they don't formally acknowledge it. Are you going to do a resolution this year? You may say with you, nah, not this year. But internally, you might be thinking of some change you want to implement or something you want to change within yourself, simply because we've changed from 31 to 1 or 21 to 22. In fact, nothing's really happened. If you ask me, what did you do on New Year's? Same thing. I think it was Friday. We usually fast on Friday, where I was educated at the academy. Every Friday is fast. Friday was, I fasted and went to sleep early. I think 8:30, normal bedtime. And woke up and carried on, following the same schedule that I've been following for the last 10 years. Nothing has really happened. All that's happened is Friday became Saturday. Yet we've created this impression, this mental impression, something new, something to do. And yeah, let's do something this year. But as been proven, very few of us end up fulfilling these goals. So what we have to ask ourselves is, what is it that actually prevents us from filling these goals? Why don't these resolutions work? Why? And if you expand that, how come I fail in, achieving the goals I set out for myself? And we're going to look at tools, and we're going to look at reasons, and we're going to try and develop an understanding that will assist us and help us. Not necessarily that is going to promote you to take up a New Year's resolution next year, but definitely help you in setting forth and achieving your goals. The first thing that we have to appreciate, especially with regards to why these resolutions fail, remember, it's just a change in the calendar date, change in the calendar month. What you have to appreciate is that anything external, that's the date change, cannot bring about an internal transformation. In other words, a date change cannot get us onto changing our personalities. Anything external, in fact, somebody comes to you and says, these are bad habits you've got. You should eat more healthier. External. It could be someone close to you who you have respect for. External. That won't bring about change within yourself. So first thing we appreciate is that if you want to change, if you want to achieve your goals, there has to be some internal transformation, for which we have to understand what is internal transformation. Very nice word. In fact, you probably heard it in some new agey kind of language. Internal transformation. Just engage in internal transformation. But what does it actually mean? So to truly understand this subject, which we're studying today, we need to, first of all, understand the human composition. So what is a human being? And before that, I just want to take you to a quote. It says, yeah, there is no use relying on external forces for gaining internal strength. This is out of the book Vedanta Treatise by A. Parthasarathi. Some of you are already enrolled in the Vedanta Treatise class. Nice to see you all here. And which we are going through this book by A. Parthasarathi. This is my teacher. And in the book, he refers to this. And this is the first thing we need to appreciate. You can't rely on external forces for gaining internal strength. You can't rely on a date change for setting forth on a change that you want to make within your own lives. So again, as we said, we need to understand this subject thoroughly. We first need to understand this, what we call as the human constitution. And as many of you, I see some familiar faces, as many of you will appreciate, the human being is made up of essentially three equipments, and that is a body, a mind, and an intellect. Body, that's easy to understand. The body is almost like a vehicle. It's a vehicle that transports you from experience to experience, just like your car takes you from place to place. Your body takes you from experience to experiencing, no more, no less. So no doubt your body is sitting here before your phone or your computer screen on this Zoom meeting, but it wasn't your body that decided to come here. There's something else driving your body into action. And that which drives your body into action is the mind and the intellect. Mind is that non-rational aspect of our personality, that which feels, has emotions, likes, dislikes, the various aspects which we're going to go into that denote the nature of this mind. So mind can be responsible for driving your body into action, but so can the intellect. And now that intellect is that resolute or rational part of you, that which thinks, reasons, judges, and decides. So when we form this resolution, a New Year's resolution, or even a goal, setting of a goal, what we're attempting to achieve by doing that is we are attempting to drive the body into action. Okay, I have this goal or this ideal that I've set for myself. I want to lose 10 kilograms. So you create this goal, this resolution to lose 10 kilograms. So you're attempting to engage in an activity or refrain from an activity that would be eating junk food or eating rubbish food in an attempt to make a transformational change. So this, as we appreciate, it's the mind and the mind or intellect, or a confluence of both, it could be, that executes the action. Body is responsible for executing the action, should I say. Eventually, of course, it is the body that executes the action. The body also is obviously engaged in perceiving. It houses the organs of perception as well as the organs of action. So you may go, well, I don't understand why learning about the human composition got anything to do with resolution setting. It's got everything to do with resolution setting. In fact, understanding the body, mind, and intellect is fundamental. This should have been taught in primary school. Everybody should be fully aware and cognizant of the idea that they have these equipments. Of course, everybody is aware that they have a body. Once you're old enough, you can appreciate, I've got this body. Even my 4-year-old can go nose, cheek, head, ear. Everyone knows the body. Yes, correct. I'd agree with that. But who knows about mind? Okay, most people would say, yeah, mind. Okay, everyone knows you got a mind. Intellect. This is where the numbers, like the resolutions, slowly start dwindling. Nobody knows about the intellect. Even in psychology circles, there's very little mention of the intellect. Not to talk of psychology. Even in philosophy, you pick up any book on philosophy, whether it's Eastern or Western, whoever authored it, very seldom will you ever get any reference to this buddhi. Buddhi is intellect. That intellect is that thinking capacity in you. And this is vital, not just for goal-setting resolutions. This is vital for your life. Anything that you are going to engage in requires knowledge and understanding, in-depth knowledge and understanding of what these equipments are, how they relate to one another, and how you can best use them in order to gain success, peace, and happiness within your life. So we understand that. So now just to go back a little bit, and this is important that you really understand these equipments and how they function. So when we look at the mind, as we said, the mind is that non-rational aspect of our personalities. Of course, these fall within the realm of thought. And when we look at the mind and sort of break it up, these are more functional aspects of the mind. Again, they are thoughts, no doubt, same as the intellect, also thoughts, but they're thoughts with a particular kind of, I would just say, texture to them, let's say. So within this group of thoughts, which we call the mind, we have feelings and emotions. I feel happy, I feel sad, I'm elated, I'm down, I'm depressed, I'm excited, These are all feelings. We all know this. Feelings and emotions. These are housed within the mind. Likes and dislikes. What are we attracted to? What do we like doing? Oh, yeah, I like philosophy. Hence, you find yourself in this Zoom room. I really enjoy philosophy. I like it. Dislike waking up. That's, some people Sunday afternoon, dislike waking up early, 9:30 on a Sunday. It's a bit early I like philosophy, but I certainly enjoy lying in more. So we have these likes and dislikes that form a part of our personality. Everyone has them. Nothing wrong with them. When you act on them, this can become a problem because invariably acting on the mind is not in our best interest. Purely functioning off the mind, when the mind makes your decisions, not the best position to be in. Again, mind is made up of impulses, our desires. And this is good in a way. You may say, well, what's wrong with that? In fact, there's nothing wrong with the mind. Mind is a beautiful thing. Imagine a life devoid of emotions. That's no life. You're a stone, you're a rock. There's no life like that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to, every time you have a feeling of happiness, you need to jump around the room like a clown, or every time you get sad, you need to sit there and mope and cry. And I'm not saying emotions always needed to be expressed. In fact, surface emotions are generally expressed. Deep emotions are less expressed. I'll give you an example. When you're very, very angry, somebody does something to you and you're very, very angry. If you're angry, you'll shout at them. You'll maybe even curse them. When you're very, very angry, the words don't come out because that deep emotion is not always easily expressed, or often not expressed. So we have these impulses and desires, and these are in effect 100% necessary. You'll appreciate that if you want to achieve a goal, if you want to achieve a resolution, if you want to achieve success, there needs to be a desire backing it. Without that desire for whatever that may be, material, wealth, this year I want to make sure I earn X amount, or I want to get rid of my debts. You need to have a desire to do that. If there's no desire, you'll just plod along like you were the year before or however many years before, just plodding along. No real plan, just going and moving. So we need these impulses and desires, of course. But again, they need to be monitored. Finally, one aspect of the mind, and this is an important aspect, and don't worry, we're going to go into these in greater depth when we analyze the resolutions and goals and why we can't achieve them. But another aspect of the mind, and this is important, is the mind's rambling. And this is a tendency. Remember, these are all tendencies of the mind or features of the mind, or what we can call as the mind's very nature. The mind tends to ramble. And it rambles everywhere but where it should be. See, even now listening to this lecture, where should your mind be? Your mind should be here on the lecture, on what's being said. Where is your mind? Either behind you or in front of you. When I say behind you, either thinking about what happened yesterday, or it's such a hot day, but I had such a jolly good time. Went to the beach, and your mind tends to wander backwards, or it wanders forwards. I hope this guy's going to finish at the time he said, because I've got a lunch appointment, or I've got to get to the beach again because it's a bit cooler and it might be night. Whatever. This is your mind. Your mind's always going into the future or going into the past. It's never where it should be. And without it being where it should be, then there's no chance of gaining success. There's no chance of actually gaining anything, even from this talk. If your mind's not in the present, you can't gain anything from the experience. In fact, even to enjoy anything, your mind needs to be available to you. So when we function on the mind, and this is essentially what most people are doing. Most people around the world are functioning on the whims and fancies of the mind. And you may say, how do you know that? Look around you. Stress, strain, divorce, depression, anxiety. It's apparent. You speak to anyone, almost everyone is going through some kind of turmoil, some kind of hardship, whether it's unable to deal with losing a loved one, whether it's unable to deal with a particular relationship. So many things are upsetting the apple cart, as it were. This is because we are locked in the mind. We are slaves of the mind, as it were. We are functioning on the mind. The mind is irresolute. Whenever you're in doubt, whenever there's some hesitancy, you're not sure how to proceed, this is mind. You're in mind, we say. So this is just a little brief introduction into mind in the context of what we're talking about in terms of resolutions. Mind, one aspect that can drive our actions. We'll appreciate that the mind, when driving our actions, doesn't necessarily give us that which we want, doesn't necessarily help us in achieving our goals because of the mind's very nature. Now, the intellect, that rational aspect of us, it is that faculty which reasons, judges, and decides. It is able to apply logic and reason to situations in order to arrive at a particular conclusion. The intellect allows us to think freely, independently. And it is that capacity within us to analyze, to plan, to reflect, to distinguish. It's that discriminating feature in us. We're using it all the time. We discriminate, or we distinguish night from day, hot from cold, all various different pairs of opposites. We use the intellect to distinguish between the two. Now, as you all will appreciate, a human being is the only creature that has freedom of choice. You may say, of course, that doesn't sound right. My dog has freedom of choice. My dog can decide to stay here or can decide to go. And I would have to agree with you. There is a certain amount of choice that is afforded to animals. But when we talk of this dilemma, this is a dilemma. And why I say dilemma is because it wouldn't be a dilemma if the choice was clear to us, if it was apparent what we needed to do. And this is exactly what the intellect does. The intellect guides you and directs you towards those things which you ought to do, which ought to be done. The mind just does things that it likes. I like that. I don't like that. I'm not going to do it. Any one of you rational thinkers will appreciate that to function in this way, not always the best. So what are you saying? I shouldn't do all the things I like? Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you function purely on the likes, it can lead to detrimental effects, but at the same time, it can also prevent you from achieving that which you set out for yourself. So we have this mind and intellect that is driving our actions to achieve a particular result. Now, what we first need to appreciate this mind's irresolute nature. And again, I keep saying this, the mind has a particular nature, just like a child has a particular nature. A child is innocent. A child is ignorant. It hasn't learned how to live yet properly. It doesn't know that it shouldn't go and touch certain things. It doesn't know knives are sharp. It doesn't know plates are hot and all of these things. The mind just doesn't know. But the child just doesn't know. A child is a beautiful expression. It's you look at a child and it's such a joy to watch. They're just continuously active and playing and so sweet, this innocence about them. And this is exactly like the mind. It's got a particular nature. And it's good at certain things and it's not good at other things. Now, when we start investigating deeper and deeper and we get to the fundamental understanding, and this is essentially what this talk is trying to equip you with. We're not just going to give you ad hoc solutions, do this, do that. This will help you achieve your goal. Get a yearly planner, get this and this and this. So many, you can Google it, so many of these ad hoc solutions, quick tip tools to achieve your goals. which I'm not saying there's no value in that, but what we are trying to establish in this classroom is a fundamental understanding of what is happening within the recesses of our personality. Because if we can understand that, we can fundamentally change it at that level. When you change it at that level, it exuberates outwards. You can then apply it into every facet of your life. So what we have to understand is that essentially it is this mind. It is the mind within us that is preventing us from realizing our resolutions or our goals. Period. The mind is responsible. So when we are functioning off the mind, and as I said earlier, everybody is functioning off the mind. I gave you the reasons why I made that statement. There is another reason why I can make that statement, because there's no program to develop the intellect. Now remember, the intellect is that capacity which can control the mind, just like it's the adult which governs, guides, and directs the child. It is the intellect which governs, guides, and directs the mind. Now, when the mind is allowed to function by itself, just as when a child is allowed to function by itself, you can appreciate potential disaster. And this is exactly what happens when you allow the mind to function independently. The mind's not good at making choices. We said it's irresolute. We're trying to develop or become resolute. So opposite of resolute, irresolute. What's irresolute? Mind is irresolute. So the mind prevents us from realizing our goals. Now, go back. There were various aspects of the mind that we touched on. Now we're going to investigate them a little bit closer. So there's one aspect of the mind, likes and dislikes. So what happens with these likes and dislikes? We have these feelings. I like that. Oh, it really brings me great happiness to do that. I really enjoy it. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But is that what you ought to be doing? Monday morning comes and it's the start of the year and you wake up, oh, what a beautiful day. You look outside, such a beautiful, it's a perfect beach day. And I really like going to the beach. If you function on your mind, what happens at 9 o'clock? You get a call. Hello, yes, Gary, yeah, you were meant to be at work today. You start the job today. Oh, right. All right. Yes, correct. No, sorry, where are you? No, I'm at the beach. Wow, I like the beach. So you'll appreciate that you can't function on these likes. No, what you ought to do, now you've signed up for a job or employment or whatever it is, you ought to go there. That's what you ought to do. So you can't function on that. Yeah, you may have that like, and that like can express in the right context, of course. Now, when we examine these likes and dislikes, is what happens. And now we're getting into what prevents us from achieving our resolutions, or what prevents us from achieving our goals. As I said, if you look at it from a broader context, is that we set these resolutions, and it sounds very nice when we do it. That would be great. You know, I really like to see myself in that new swimsuit or that bikini, you know, and you paint this picture in your mind. You just got to lose a little bit of a couple kilograms. In fact, I was chatting to my cousin and he wants to do these swims, you know, and he's got a wetsuit, but he can't fit into the wetsuit, you know. So he likes the idea. Okay, I want to lose that kilogram again, get in the wetsuit, and I can do something healthy and productive. And so that inspires us. So we tend to go out, but then we realize actually that there's hard work involved in that. It's a little bit more than just pitching the idea, which sounds nice and you picture in your mind how you may be looking. But when you get into it, it's a little bit hard. So what happens is these goals we set for ourselves, these resolutions, they stop catering to the things we like. Ooh, I don't like not being able to have this type of food. I don't like having to go to the gym and sit on the rowing machine or the bicycle, or I don't like that. So our likes and dislikes are no longer catered towards. So what happens? The resolution out the window. That goal out the window, because we are functioning off the mind, and the mind's not being catered to. So the resolution gets dropped. Another thing is that we tend to take up these resolutions or goals with that give us immediate benefit, right? And of course, these are not sustainable. I don't need to explain this to you. A goal that's an immediate benefit, you achieve it, you get this elation, and then that's where it kind of stops. And one thing you have to appreciate about the mind, I'm not going to go into it further, but it says in fact, it says in the scriptures, the mind is like nectar in the beginning and poison in the end. The things you often like to do are give you great temporary satisfaction, no doubt, but can be detrimental in the long run. You may like eating sweet stuff. At the end of the day, what happens? Diabetes, weight, all these negative connotations that are associated with this. So again, these likes and dislikes of the mind are not necessarily beneficial in us achieving that which we are setting out to do. Another aspect of the mind we're going to investigate is these impulses and desires. And we've already said impulses, desires, these drive us, right? So they are important. Of course, we can't just say, let's get rid of all these impulses, let's get rid of all these desires and function. We won't function. There's no action without desire. Thought produces desire, desire produces action. We need these desires and thoughts in order to act. And we need to act to achieve our goals. The problem with these impulses and desires in the mind is that they lack any direction or dimension. The mind has no direction or dimension. The mind can just pitch up anything. Oh, I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that. Can you achieve it? Do you have the capacity? The mind doesn't think in these analytical ways. It just throws it out. This sounds great. What do you want to do this year? I want to run the Comrades Marathon. When is it? Well, it's in June. Have you started training? No. Have you run before? No. Do you have a pair of running shoes? No. But I like the idea. This is the desires of the mind. They can just throw out anything. So no direction, nor dimension. Therefore, we throw out these unrealistic goals. Often goals that we don't think about. In other words, they're beyond our capacity to achieve. They may sound great. What do you want to do this year? I want to make sure I earn R1 million. Great goal. And in fact, with that million, I'm going to give half to charity. Amazing goal. Wow, so unselfish you are. That sounds really, really good. And what are you earning per month? What do you mean, what am I earning? No, you want to get R1 million at the end of the year. What is your monthly income? No, I earn a good salary. Yeah. How much? Oh, I earn 60,000 a month. Oh, that's not bad. Comfortable. Okay. Well, 12 times 6. Oh, 72. Oh, you realize you're 280,000 short of R1 million. No other form of income, might I add. And that's not taking into account living expenses beyond one's capacity. I'm just highlighting it from a purely material point of view. You can fill the gaps to complete the idea. So what happens when we pitch up a goal, we pitch up a resolution that's beyond our capacity? Well, as we start trying to work our way towards it, and it's out of our reach, we get demotivated. We get uninspired. Oh, I'm never going to really achieve this. Like, might as well just give up now and choose something else. We don't reach that which we aspire for. Again, this is because the mind's just got no direction, or should I say in this context, no dimension. It doesn't understand there's a certain capacity that everyone has for achieving anything. The other thing is the mind's desires are stronger than the intellect, and this is really the crux of it. So we in life, and not just with respect to setting goals, setting ideals, we are confronted with this perennial, eternal, as it were, battle between the mind's desires and the intellect's capacity to manage those desires. This is our life. This is the dilemma of choice that we're all faced with. Now, things go awry or skew when the mind's desires are stronger than the intellect. It's like a child throwing a tantrum, right? Sometimes I've seen, or the child is just playing up all the time, constantly for hours, and eventually it gets to the point where the adult just doesn't know how to deal with it, can't deal with it, can't manage it, it just loses it, starts screaming, whatever. But what has essentially happened there is the minds, and in this analogy, what I'm trying to highlight here, what I'm trying to illustrate, is that we have a plethora of desires in the mind. Some of them are relatively weak, some of them some of them are strong. Now we've got a level of intellect. As long as those desires sit under that level of intellect, we can manage them. Well, we like a drink every now and again. A glass of wine is nice in the evening. Now, if that desire, that mind's desire, is not so strong and the intellect is stronger, yeah, we'll get away with it. We'll have a drink and lovely. I remember my dad, he used to have 2 single shots of brandy and water, I think almost every night. Once that was done, that was done. That was it. Desires are below the intellect's governing capacity. Now, as soon as that desire pushes above it, now I've got friends, and I know people, and you don't have to know these people. You can go to any bar and you can see that the mind's desire for alcohol far exceeds that of the intellect's capacity to control it. And this spills over into every aspect of your life. As soon as the mind's desire is greater than the intellect's capacity to control it, you're running with that. You're pushing into that. So the mind takes you on its own journey. You're not in control. You're not holding the reins. It's the analogy in the Bhagavad Gita. Some of you have seen that picture of Lord Krishna holding the reins and these horses are running. What does that represent? It's all symbolic. Don't have to get into all of that. It's all symbolic. Krishna represents the intellect. Holding the reins, controlling the horses is the mind. So if you're able to control the mind, if you're able to rein in, handle the mind, your life is charging in the right direction, like 5 horses charging in the right direction. You can achieve anything. The next thing is that the mind lacks clarity and motivation. It simply just pitches up things. As I said, this relates to the first point. And these are what we call as impulsive actions. Actions driven by our desires. So there's no clarity as into why we should be pursuing that in the first place. Why are we pursuing that particular goal or desire? Oh no, I just felt like it. Oh, it just seemed like a nice thing to do. Is it aligning to our overall goal, that overarching goal that we've set for our lives? What is it you want to achieve in your life? What is it that you're striving for? What are you aiming for? What is life all about for you? Now, we can get into that discussion. I need to set aside another hour, which I don't mind doing. In fact, any suggestions anyone has for talks they'd like to hear, please send me a message, send me an email. I'd be happy to do something like that. More than happy. So, mind lacks clarity, motivation. What we do is we function on these impulses. Mind just pitches something up and it seems like a good idea and we just move on that. It's called impulsive behavior. That doesn't serve our greater interest. That doesn't serve the attainment of our goals. Because as we know, the mind is like this wily character. As soon as something sounds good, it goes in that direction. But at the drop of a hat, it swings the other way. Now, your goal is positioned in one spot. You got to put in all your energy and effort to move towards that spot, that particular direction. It's like, all of you know Google Maps, no? Google Maps is a life changer. I don't know how people function. Actually, I do know how people function. We used to have a street atlas. You have to look at it. And sometimes it went into the next page and and you'd be lost, and the page is a complete disaster. Now you do put in your location, ding, ding, ding. I want to go to 2A, Long Street, Cape Town, direction. And it plots it all out for you. It's amazing. Amazing. And it sets the direction. It can tell you which is more traffic, less traffic, shortest route, quickest route. You decide. You weigh up all I want to go the scenic route. I want to go the route without toll roads. They give you all these options are there, right? And then you go start. Let's go. I think in the Waze thing, it gives you the running comment. Let's go. And anyway, you head off and you follow this and you get to your destination. If you're driving correctly. That's the intellect. That is the opposite of impulsive action. Now, impulsive action is like, where are we going? We're going to Long Street. This is in Cape Town for all of you who don't know. We got a Long Street. All right. So you jump in your car and you start driving and you go, hey, look at that. Isn't that where the beach is? Yeah, that's where. Yeah, we should drive. Let's come on. Such a nice day. Let's drive there. And you go there and, oh, look at that mountain. And you drive over the mountain. And then 2 hours later, you're meant to be somewhere. Where are you? Somewhere else. What's happened? No clear plan. No clear direction. No clear goal. Lack of clarity. You're just simply going, driving around. This is functioning of the mind. How many times I speak to people and they love to say, oh, we're talking about life and things. No, I just go with the flow. Some of you may have heard this expression. I just go with the flow of things, Where's the flow going? Anywhere the mind wants. Just flowing this way, flowing that way. No direction. Again, the mind gets inspired. Of course, the desire bubbles up within us. We get inspired to achieve certain things. And that's one aspect, of course. Without that desire, without that inspiration, how can we achieve anything? But that's not all. In order to gain success, we need to pursue it. We need a plan, proper plan. We need to be able to get there. So the mind doesn't have this capacity. The mind doesn't have this conviction. In fact, the mind leans more on complacency. The mind is happy in its happy space. The mind is comfortable in areas where it's known. It can't project out of that, right? The mind is happy with this little routine it's set up for itself. The mind is happy with particular things it likes doing that it's used to. The mind doesn't like exploration. It's not exploratory. Now, if we want to implement change, we're going to need to act outside of our current way of functioning or level of thinking, in fact. In fact, I think it's Albert Einstein who says, we cannot, and I'm paraphrasing here slightly, we cannot expect to solve our problems with the same thinking that got us into those problems. And this is what the mind will always do. It's circular reasons. You're thinking about something. It's actually not thinking. You're just going around in a circle. Mind's holding you there like a whirlpool, just holding you there, spinning round and round and round. Only the intellect has the resolute ability to project you into an area of unknown. So another aspect I want to touch on, last two aspects of the mind, and then we'll get onto the intellect and how it can manage these aspects of the mind into helping us achieve our goals. So the mind rambles. Again, we did touch on this. When the mind slipping into the past and future, where is it not? In the present. What is keeping the mind in the present? Simple word, concentration. Keeping the mind on the present activity is concentration. And in order to achieve your goals, attain success, you will need to be able to concentrate. We'll get into this at the end. Again, the mind tends to slip into the future, I said. This is what we call as result orientation. So you may have set a goal for yourself. Let's go back to that example. I want to get R1 million. And you start functioning, right? So let's say this time, you earn a bit more and it's possible. So you start working your way towards it. What happens to the mind? The mind's always thinking about the million, the million, the million, the million. When your mind is always thinking about the million, what is it not thinking about? It's not thinking about what you should be doing in this point. If you can't think what you should be doing in this point, then you're not concentrating. Then you're not actually working to achieving your goals. So you've got to be able to concentrate, and you can't be result oriented. That's not to say you need to set an intention. You need to set a goal. That's different. Constantly thinking about the result, constantly thinking about that success is not going to help you achieve that success in the long run. So when we're constantly thinking about the result, we're not thinking about what we should be doing. We can't remain in the present, and therefore the action suffers. If the action suffers, the success suffers, because success is an effect of our right actions. Finally, an aspect of the mind, herd instinct. Just briefly, why do we set these resolutions? Well, that's what you do. Everyone sets a New Year's resolution, Craig. No, that's what you do in the first of the year, or when you start a new job, or when you get back to work, or when the kid starts a new grade, whatever it is. What do you do? Well, everyone's doing it. Let's do it. Herd instinct. This is the mind. The mind functions on a herd mentality. Okay, so the topic is become resolute. What does resolute mean? If you look at the Chambers Dictionary, it says having a fixed purpose, constant in pursuing a purpose, determined. By now, there should be a clear association in your mind with these three things. They all, in some way or another, highlight the importance of the intellect within us, because the intellect assists us in doing all these things. It assists us to pitch up that purpose or that goal, or maintain the mind's desires in pursuit of that, constant pursuit, driving to achieve that, determination to achieve it. Of course, the intellect plays more roles. I'm just saying, you need to make this correlation. You need to set, if you're looking at the definition, you need to be able to correlate that. To become resolute, you need to develop your intellect. So essentially, what's happening here? So resolution, goal, is this fixed determination or resolving power in achieving our ambitions. Without that ability, without that capacity, invariably what happens is our goals fall apart, our resolutions fall apart, and this is exactly what happens. So if anything, if even half of you walk away from this talk understanding and appreciating the vital role of the intellect within you, not only in constructing your goals, not only in pitching the goals, but also in the pursuit of the goals, the whole way through you need it. See, again, the mind pitches a goal, an ideal. Great. What's going to help you achieve that? What's going to give it clear direction? Intellect. What's going to help you get there? Intellect. So at the end of the day, there's no other way around it. Fortify this thinking capacity within you. That is the answer. That is the only answer. No, of course, it's not to say there's not some supporting features or mechanisms or tools that you can use. Of course, we're going to give you some. But essentially, fundamentally, this is what you need to engage in. Fortification of the intellect. How do we achieve that? Take nothing for granted. Question everything. In other words, think. If you are not thinking, you're not using your intellect. And thinking is a conscious thought force. You're not just idly ruminating on various thoughts that whatever comes into your mind. That's not thinking. So the intellect must control the mind's desire and guide us towards the goal without suppressing or frustrating one. You see, this is often what happens, these diets. You pitch a goal, okay, I need to lose 10 Ks, whatever it is. Now, you may get to a point where you can't eat something, or you have, you like a certain meal and no, can't eat that. What happens? You get frustrated. You feel suppressed. So you just drop it. So it's a careful management. You got to carefully manage these things. And that's the intellect gives you the capacity to do. Planning. This is obviously a massive, massive important thing when it comes to our goals. We need to plan realistic goals. Again, we've already touched on this. They got to be within your capacity to achieve. Again, the mind functions in this realm of what it knows already. So it can't extend to achieve something beyond that. Only the intellect can be able to do that. So the intellect plans, okay, I want to achieve this. I want to gain this additional degree of success. I want to change this aspect of my personality. I want to become a better person, more charitable, more giving, whatever it is. You determine that. The intellect determined that, and then assists you in achieving that. Otherwise, the mind is comfortable where it is at. So the intellect is really fundamental. It is a necessary equipment in planning our goals, for which you'll need a certain amount of analysis. Remember, intellect analyzes. What is the purpose? What is the reason for pursuing this? There's got to be some backing, some thought which promotes that. If there's no reason to do it, why do you want to do that? Oh, it just sounds nice. It's not going to have any weight. So that's something that you got to be aware of. What is the reason behind doing it? Now, you'll find if those reasons behind doing things are selfish reasons, it's another reason that the goal fails. If those reasons behind doing something are unselfish reasons, in other words, they cater to a larger circle of identification, not just for you, it could be for your family. Listen, this year I really want to make sure I take my family away on a nice holiday. Or this year I really want to make sure I do this for others. Those are the goals that actually are easily achievable, are worthwhile achieving. Now, that can only be assessed and attained through knowledge of higher values. And this is where Vedanta is very, very useful. Not only does it assist one in developing the intellect, but it does it in the context of higher values. Together, those two things and nothing else you need for your life. Nothing more you need for your life, honestly. Again, direction. Remember, the mind has no direction. The intellect needs to apply some direction. What are you working for? You need to align your goal to your life's purpose. See, we're all pursuing the same thing, and that's happiness. We all want to achieve a sense of peace and happiness in our lives. Now, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. How we attain that is through inner development. We need to address the inner personality in order to attain happiness. Most of the world thinking it's just in acquiring more and more stuff. The whole Western world is just clamoring and clamoring, trying to get more money, more things, better houses, better cars, better whatever. That will make you happy temporarily. I did a talk on the art of well-being. Some of you may wish to watch that. It's a talk which addresses this idea of happiness and where to find it. Can't find it in mere acquisition. So you got to find it in inner development, for which you need knowledge. The intellect allows you to gain knowledge. Then you got a clear direction. Is your goal aligned to your overall sense of subjective well-being is the question. So is my goal going to give me happiness, lasting happiness? That's what you need to think about. Again, this ideal is something beyond yourself. You hear me using these words interchangeably, goal and ideal. Now, a goal can refer to something that you do for yourself. It's not wrong. An ideal is that which you can do for others. So it's a higher goal because it's more unselfish. Now, when you're working for an ideal, a goal that's more unselfish, less selfish, more unselfish, less selfish, automatically what happens is there's a satisfying, refreshing, rewarding feeling that gives you. Now, I'm just going to briefly touch on this. It's in the book Governing Business and Relationships. If any of you would like to further examine this, is this idea of backward planning in order to achieve your goals. So in backward planning, which is different from forward planning, you see forward planning lacks foresight. You're just moving forward in attempt to eventually, of course, there's a direction that's set, but you're moving forward through the motions. So sometimes the objective changes and it's not very clear as you progress. Sometimes you're building a house and you're laying the bricks and this could be nice, and you kind of, without a proper structural detail, without an architect, you can appreciate things go wrong because there's no clear objective. You're just building. I know how to build, let's build. And this is the same as a forward plan. You just start building and you know kind of where you need to go. I need to build the house. I need to get the house up. And you start, I know how to lay bricks, and and then you can appreciate it. Some monstrosity comes out. So with backward planning, you've set the goal, the house. This is how it should look. Then you start dividing up what needs to be achieved within that certain framework of time. This is very useful practice. So this year, I want to achieve this. How much time do you have to achieve it? Well, I've got the year. Or you may say, I want to achieve this by June. I've got 6 months. Okay, what do I need to do in the 6 months? Achieve that. In 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 week, 7 days, 1 day. So every day, you know what you have to do. The more you are able to etch out a clearer plan, backward plan, the more realistic it is for you to be able to achieve your goals. In this backward planning, of course, you're taking into account material and human resources available to you. That's important. It forms a part of the plan, and also force majeure. These are unforeseeable circumstances. Anyone that had a solid backward planning would have phased in pandemic into the whole thing as well. So I see there is a question that's come up. Yes, we will address that at the end. Okay. One thing I want to just highlight here for you guys is this idea of incentive versus initiative. So incentive versus initiative. First thing that you have to appreciate in life is that you can never give anything up. You can never give anything up. You may say, I don't agree with that. I've given many things up, Craig. Many things. I've given smoking up. I've given drinking up. I've given gambling up. I've given up all sorts of things. And it appears that way. Yes, you have stopped an unhealthy habit for sure. I'm not disagreeing with that. But essentially what's actually happened is you've taken up something higher. It's not that you've given up something. You've taken up something. So you want to stop, let's say, drinking or smoking. It's not that you give up drinking or smoking. You take up health. No, actually, I don't want to be in this position where I'm coughing all the time. I want to actually breathe, feel the breath in my air. I want to feel that. That's a feeling or a sense of health. So you take that up. So with regards to, remember, we talked about giving up negativities in the beginning. It's one of the aspects. Taking up positivities, giving up negativities. You can only take up something higher. Taking up something higher, automatically what that means is giving up something lower. As you take up the higher, the lower drops off. This is the way it works. So when we are working for something higher, a higher cause, it could be for a higher ideal. It could be for a higher level of functioning within our personality. I want to be more charitable. I want to be more giving. I want to be a better listener. You decide what you want to achieve. You decide what flaws there are in your personality and how you're going to go about rectifying those. When you plan, program, and act for a higher cause, what essentially happens is you develop this initiative. There is this inner drive that supports the pursuit. This gives you the energy and enthusiasm in order to achieve that goal. So dedicated to the higher. When you dedicate goals, intentions, resolutions to something higher, they are more readily achievable, easier to achieve. When we look at the opposite of that, when we look at selfish activities, selfish, self-centered activities that are centered on the individual. I want to get more money. Why? I want to buy more things. They're more difficult to achieve. They need external pushes and motivations. They need this resolution, this calendar month. They need the new job. They need this novel experience with the extra dopamine release. So for that, you're going to need incentives that drive you into action. You're going to rely on these things. Now, what we find is these incentivized resolutions, these incentivized goals, they're driven by the mind. They're addressed to the mind. You're catering to the mind, as it were. There's no inner initiative. There's no drive to act for the higher cause. So what happens is initially you boosted into that. Yes, I want to achieve that. But as we see, slowly, slowly dies out. That's why these goals, resolutions fail. Mind-led, incentive-driven, slowly die. It happens in the workplace. We see that. There's no drive to work for anything other than one's paycheck. There's no, I don't care about this company. I just want my money at the end of the day. This is the attitude of most people when they go into office. Who cares what company? I don't care. I'd work for any company as long as they're paying me the right amount. This is a selfish attitude. You may not realize it. This is why this knowledge is there to educate. We're not here to condone anybody. We're here to inspire, raise people up. So if you change that and you start going into the office, okay, I want to make sure this company succeeds. I want to make sure this organization is successful. All of a sudden, a paycheck is going in your account anyway. It doesn't matter, but there will be this enthusiasm. You're working for something higher, for something more than yourself. That enables you to drive you towards your goal. That enables you to achieve your resolutions. That enables you to become resolute. And that initiative is established by the intellect. Finally, success. Of course, success is defined as the outcome of an undertaking. Success is an effect, essentially. So if success is the effect, then what we have to examine is, what is the cause of that effect? And the cause of our success, that success in the context of what we're talking is the goal, in that which we want to achieve, that resolution, that ideal, that's the success. Attaining that means we've achieved success in that area. How do we get there? By putting in the right causes. What is the right causes? Right action. What is right action based on? 3 C's. Easy. Easy to remember. And don't remember anything else, just remember 3 C's. 3 C's to success. Concentration, consistency, cooperation. Already we've touched on concentration. When the intellect holds the mind on the present activity or action, you are said to be concentrating. If you are concentrating, you can attain success. If you lapse concentration, if you're not concentrating, you're not focusing on what you're doing, you need coffee, you need more hours, you become stressful, all these things. So concentration is the first element of attaining your success, your goals. Second, consistency. That consistency which comes from a solid plan, which comes from the intellect, which comes from higher ideals, all set towards driving you towards the attainment of the success. And you'll need to do it consistently. You're not going to take it up one day, not the next. I feel like doing a few hours of this now. I don't feel like doing a few hours of this later. There needs to be that consistency. You need to have a plan. This is where the backward plan comes in. So useful because you know what you need to do every hour or every day. Certain aspect you need to cover. Finally is cooperation. you cannot achieve success. You cannot achieve your ideals or goals without the assistance of others. You say, but Craig, you did in this lecture, you marketed the whole thing yourself, you constructed the material yourself. I don't see anybody else sitting there talking with you. What do you mean in cooperation? Who is cooperating with you? You would have a point. I'm admitting, not in any way, just to highlight that, yeah, I did all these things. I sent out the messages. Yeah, you're right. Listen, if I don't have Zoom, where's this lecture? If I don't have internet, where's this lecture? I don't have this computer, where's this lecture? Nowhere. So how many people have contributed to this lecture? All the technicians at Zoom, all the technicians that built the computer which I'm talking on, all these components. Where did I get the information from? Someone has constructed it. Someone educated me on these values. So many people have contributed to me actually delivering this lecture. So many people. I'd say I did it. Similarly in life, it's the same thing. You need nothing you can claim as your own. Everything you need the assistance of others, the cooperation of others. So once you're able to have these three, concentration, consistency, cooperation, it's a breeze. You can achieve your goals. You can achieve anything you set out to do. Thank you very much.